Hello, and welcome to Guidance for a Better Life. I'm excited today to have my guest, Lawrence Elder, back. He's been here before. He has a beautiful story how he was praying and he got a personal response back to God. And many of you may have had that, but you may not realize how many different unique ways can respond. And perhaps sometimes people just blow them off. They think it was a coincidence. So there's something extraordinary about this show, about how God can respond. And I think once you hear how God responds, in Lawrence's case, you might realize you've had a similar experience and didn't realize it was more than just something random. So thanks for coming today. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
You're an old hat at this. Lawrence is a friend. He's an author, professional musician, right? You just did a recording.
Yep.
And in your spare time, a college professor.
Right.
Wow, busy guy.
Yeah.
So, you live in New York. You're down here at the studio at the school, Nature Word School in the mountains of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But the story took place, how long ago does this story take place?
This was a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And you lived up in New York.
Yep.
And you went out on the island.
Yep.
How far is that from where you live?
About five and a half hours.
5.5 hours. So you were kind of on the western side of New York, middle of New York.
Right.
And you went out on the island to visit family.
Yep.
It was around the Christmas holidays?
Yeah, Christmas holiday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you went out, and I've known you for over 20 years. You run, I don't want to tell a lie in camera or any time. You run literally every single day, is that right?
Yes.
And you've done that ever since I've known you?
Yeah, for a very long time.
Wow. Now that's discipline and consistency and all kinds of stuff. Very cool. So you were on a run, out visiting family, I think your mom.
Yeah. Mom and sister.
Mom and sister out on Long Island.
Yeah.
And you sat down somewhere. Where did you sit down? You were being a wimp running, but you ran. At a certain point, you decided to sit down and just smell the roses, you might say.
Yeah.
Where were you sitting down? What was around you?
I was by the water. It was kind of near a marina.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of water out there, and
I'm already picturing a peaceful setting with the boats rocking, the sailboats, the mast, the rope banging on the mast.
I love that sound.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sound.
It is.
Is that the type of scene you were at?
It was that kind of scene, and even though it was winter, it was just one of those days where it just wasn't too cold,
Okay.
It was temperate enough, and to be able to just sit down and take in the environment.
And I know you're a serious runner. You had done your run, and then you also are balanced, so you also want to sit and enjoy the scene a little bit. There's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And in your story, you started talking about you felt this, I think if I'm right, you felt this wave of gratitude for things in your life.
Absolutely.
What were some of the things you started being really grateful for?
Well, they were simple things. They were,
Interesting.
really just being home for the holidays.
Simple's awesome. Sometimes the simplest things are overlooked. So I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So being home for the holidays.
Yeah.
With family, your mom and sister, people you love.
Yep. I had friends, other friends out on Long Island that I got to visit on my way to the destination, and I hadn't seen them in a while, so I was grateful that I got to reconnect with them.
All right.
I just moved into a new house back in where I live.
Yeah, 5 hours.
Yeah.
West.
Yep. And so I was just grateful that I'd found a nice place to live, and grateful for my job. Just the weather that day.
Yeah, the weather. And I think you mentioned the beautiful scenery. And then your heart started turning to God. I think this is how it went. You started noticing the water and the environment around you and God's beautiful creation. I think, did you say something like that in your story?
Absolutely. And I wanted to sit down to put aside some time to spend with the divine, to spend with God, just quality time to just me and God. And
then it works into prayer. So your heart's, you worked into prayer. You started recognizing God's beautiful creation.
Yeah.
I think you started doing a He love song to God,
yes.
But it started with gratitude.
It did start with gratitude.
Now, what I want to mention to the audience, if you're having a tough time tuning into the divine, or prayer feels a little bit rote, if you start with reviewing things you're grateful for, gratitude's the secret of love, and it will start opening your heart. And then when you pray, however you pray, now you sang the Hugh Love song, but however you pray, it's going to be better, a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to miss this pearl because it's so important. Your heart was so full of gratitude. Yes. What a beautiful segue into now recognizing divine creation, mm-hmm. and then you went into a formal prayer.
Yes.
And I hope that will help some of our audience, that if you're kind of feeling like you're getting blocked or hitting a ceiling in your prayer time or your contemplation time, start with some gratitude. Just reflect on the things, perhaps even the simple things in life, mm-hmm. that you're truly grateful for. It'll make a significant difference in your prayer time. So thanks for letting me segue there.
Sure.
So your prayer was a Hugh, love song to God.
Yeah, I sang Hugh, a love song to God, and that opened my heart even more, and it made me even more receptive to divine spirit.
Yeah.
You know, singing Hugh just raised me up even more.
And you've done that, I think, ever since I've known you.
Yeah.
I think I probably taught you the Hugh 20-some years ago at our school.
Yes, you did.
And we often start with gratitude, thinking of something for a few moments we're grateful for.
Yeah.
And it like primes a pump. It opens the heart, the gratitude does.
Absolutely.
No matter what it is. It doesn't really matter what you're grateful for. And then you add the Hugh on top of that. So you're in a pretty good space now.
Yeah.
I think I'll let you continue here. I don't want to mess this up. So take it from there, Lawrence.
Well, I mean, I was grateful for so many things, and I do feel like the gratitude kept building, like one thing built on another.
Okay.
And maybe I started with being grateful for certain things, and then it was also just to have a relationship with God, just being grateful for my relationship with God.
Wow.
And
that's beyond simple. You started with simple, and that's beautiful. I don't know if that was in your story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So when I was singing Hugh, I was really expressing my love to God. I was just saying, God, I love you. It was just sending love, and I wanted to send as much love as I could to God in that moment. I was just telling God, I love you so much.
Were you expecting to get a boom in the sky or a loud voice, or did you just want to give something?
I just wanted to give.
So no strings attached.
None.
No wanting to win the lottery.
No.
Nothing. Beautiful. It was a pure prayer.
Pure prayer.
Just sending love. And also when you sing Hugh, you're sending gratitude.
Yes.
No expectations of anything in return, nor any desire necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of the story. Do we wrap this up?
There was a little bit more.
There's a little bit more. Okay.
So I remember having this thought, my cup runneth over. How could this moment get any sweeter? And literally at that moment, as I was sending my love to God, a breath of wind came out of nowhere.
Because it hasn't been windy at all in your story. You made real clear there wasn't a breath of wind that day. And you mentioned the weather was perfect.
The weather was perfect. There wasn't, and it wasn't. It was one of those really still days. Like I hadn't noticed anything before. I didn't notice anything after. But really, this breath of wind came and it just touched my face.
The way you're doing that, it's like I would with a child I love, like a caress, almost like kiss with my hands. You take somebody you care for.
That's the word.
Tenderly. Is that how it felt?
That's what the word I thought of was, a caress. It felt that way.
Are you saying you felt that was a response from the divine?
Yeah.
Did it touch your heart, or just intellectually you felt it, or did you feel it down here?
I feel like that's really where I did.
That's where you felt.
That's where I really did feel it was in
your
my
heart.
In my heart. Yeah. I didn't have to ask, think about it.
You just knew.
I
You just felt it in your
knew
heart.
that was God
responding. There's no wind, and the timing. It sounds like the timing was exactly when he would say, "I love you" back, a little kiss on the cheek. I wonder how many folks out there would be, even if they want to believe this, would think God always talks in a booming voice, or shakes something off the shelves or something.
Right.
But in your years up here at the school, that is not uncommon.
Yeah.
And we've talked about God can literally use anything. He owns everything, and he can use anything. A gust of wind, A bird might honk or goose right at the perfect time. It could be anything. And somebody else sitting there wouldn't have any clue what you're talking about. It wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
It's only the one that got the message that really understands. Nobody else would see that.
That's right.
They just think it's a random gust of wind.
Yeah.
But you knew in your heart that that was a response back from God.
I did know that in my heart. And I think, by having had experiences like that before, it helps me understand the language of the divine, the way the divine speaks to us. And
that's basically what we do up at the school, teach how to recognize things like that.
Yeah.
And over many years, you realize God can speak to you in his language of divine, as I call it.
Yeah.
So many different ways.
Yeah, so many ways.
And one of the reasons we do these shows are to show people some different ways, his language, how he does reach out to us. And if you're aware of how he reaches out to us, and that means you, he loves you just like he loves Lawrence, then you might be more receptive to at least considering it. Yes, you might think this is a coincidence, but at least consider it. And if you have an experience like this, you might consider, or you might feel in your heart, because you're open to it, that it's real. If you don't consider it's real, then you don't accept the gift. You have to at least, like you did, know that that's possibly how God could reach out to you and say, I love you back. And if you didn't receive that and know that it's a possibility, then you're not receiving the gift. You totally miss it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons we do these shows, and I'm really grateful you're doing this particular story, because I hope people realize at least it's possible. It's something to consider.
Yeah.
And if they're ever in a situation, their heart's really open, and they're praying either the Hugh or their own type of prayer, or just talking to God personally, with reverence, of course, but personally expressing their feelings, and something as subtle, seemingly as subtle, it's pretty actually dramatic, but God can use the wind. He can use a sound. He can use anything to say, hey, I love you back.
Maybe a license plate.
License plate. In your story you mentioned a lot of things. What are some other ways that God might reach out to you that probably most people wouldn't even consider? It wouldn't even be, they'd be blind to.
Maybe a song on the radio that has a message tailor-made just while you're thinking about something. That song connects with what you thought about.
Or the words morph, or it's a love song,
Yeah.
and it seems like a man and a woman or something, or some two people,
Yeah.
or a father and a child, or mother and a whatever daughter.
Yeah.
But you hear it's love between a person and God. You hear the words change.
Yeah.
Or you hear it different than you've ever heard it before, and it's touching what you were just thinking about.
Yeah.
What are some other things? Or a license plate that gives you like a message,
Yeah.
a sign. You have a whole bunch of things in your story in the book.
Yeah.
Just to stimulate, not to say it's the only way, but to stimulate and open up the possibilities how God responds. It's so sad to me, and I think to you, but that God reaches out to you when you pray, and you have no idea that he's reaching out to you because you don't realize it's even possible.
Right.
So this is just to open up somebody's basket of possibilities.
Sure. Like another one might be the sun suddenly coming out from behind the clouds. Like you might have like an overcast day and there's this one little window.
Right when you're just thinking about something.
Right when you're thinking about something. Right. And that's part of it is just, it usually ties in with something you were.
The timing is a big part of it, you're saying?
Yeah, timing.
Like the wind was right when he would, if you were sitting in front of him, right when you say, I love you back.
Yeah.
The timing was perfect.
Yes.
The way the wind hit, it didn't smack you or blow your shirt off or mess up your hair. It was like a gentle touch on the cheek.
Yes.
Which we can relate to because that's how we relate to our friends and loved ones, to a child or a loved one or an older person, or just, it's a very familiar way that we would say, I love you. So, so a lot of it is to do with the timing. If you're running, stop just to catch your breath and you had that, it wouldn't mean a thing to you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the timing.
Okay. That's a big part of the language of the divine and the timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just that, the heart knows what the heart knows. And
Absolutely.
Sometimes people try and talk themselves out of things with their head. But, the more I think you learn to trust your heart, and like what we call our truth detectors.
Yeah.
You kind of...
Everybody has a truth detector.
Yeah.
It's not up here. It's mostly down here.
That's right. That's right.
And your truth detector said that was a response from the divine.
It did.
And the timing and everything.
And I think that's something that everybody can nurture. And
everybody has that ability, but you've also spent years learning about it and practicing and learning the language. And that's why we're doing these shows. If people can't get to the school, maybe one of these shows or something you just shared will help somebody recognize, wow, they were somewhere and they were praying, they felt really open and sending love in their own prayer, and they had a nudge.
Yeah.
Or the sun came out of clouds, they felt it on their face, and then it went away. Right then, perfect timing.
Yes.
That type of stuff. Yeah. So, is there anything else you'd like to share, Lawrence?
I would just say, if that happens, don't talk yourself out of it.
Because if you talk yourself out of it, you do not accept the gift. It's like somebody having you a wrap package with a bow on it. Here, God's love.
Yeah.
And you say, you look around, you don't see it.
Yeah.
And therefore you don't accept it. And you don't receive the gifts.
Yes.
So I hope this helps somebody.
Me too.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.
And why did you feel God really said, I love you back?
You bet.
Yeah, using some of his wind.
Isn't that something?
That is something. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it is something. And Lawrence mentioned the language of the divine. That's a term I came up with many years ago teaching up here in the mountains of Virginia. And the goal of these shows, and this particular show, is to just show you other ways that God may respond, like I said, and it gives you an option to at least consider it. So, of course, it's up to you. I really hope the show blessed you today. And if you want more Lauren's story, our books are on Amazon. And your particular story, what chapter is it in?
Chapter...
Somewhere in the book.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what chapter.
It's in the book.
It's chapter 31.
Chapter 31.
In Testimonies of God's Love, Book 5. We have about 13, 14 books out on Amazon. And if you like the story, there's a lot of stories similar that will help you understand the language of the divine. And thank you for watching, and I truly do hope the show blessed you today. Thank you.